Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senators. I'd like to first start by accepting the committee's suggested amendment found on page 6 of the analysis, which would clarify and incorporate other provisions of the Federal Communication Commission's ruling. With that, Assembly Bill 57 would provide that if a local jurisdiction fails to either approve or deny a wireless co-location application or other siting application within the existing timeframes set by the FCC, that the application shall be deemed approved. In order to encourage the expansion of wireless networks, Congress passed the Telecommunications Act of 1996, which requires a local jurisdiction to act on a wireless facility permit within a reasonable period of time. As the entity charged with implementing the act, the FCC issued a declaratory ruling that a reasonable period of time is 3 months to process co-location applications and 5 months to process all other applications. While it has been challenged, the U.S. Supreme Court has held that the FCC's timeframe are within the FCC's rulemaking authority. However, despite this ruling, many local jurisdictions still fail to adhere to the federally required timeline. In such cases, the wireless provider's only option is to sue the city or county to have the permit acted on, which can lead to even more delay. Such delay has implications for public safety, economic growth, and the ability of many of our constituents to access the Internet. Members, wireless infrastructure is essential to satisfy this need for more and more bandwidth and to extend the benefits of wireless communication into as many communities as possible. AB 57 would provide certainty in the wireless telecommunications market by enforcing the existing FCC guidelines. This is a modest step to ensure that California has the necessary telecommunications infrastructure to provide services to our constituents and to compete on a national and global scale. With me to testify in support of AB 57 is Rudy Reyes with Verizon and Bill Devine with AT&T.
Good morning, members of the committee. Mr. Chairman, my name is Rudy Reyes. I'm Vice President of Government Affairs for Verizon in California. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to testify before you today. As you've heard, consumer demand for mobile broadband is very high and is growing exponentially. Cisco estimates that between now and 2019, demand for mobile broadband is going to grow tenfold, 1,000%. That's incredible. That demand is driving companies like Verizon to invest heavily in California's wireless infrastructure. That is a good thing for California, for our consumers, for our customers, for public safety. To meet this explosive demand, providers must build new cell sites. This in turn requires the cooperation of our partners in local government, who have the absolute power to approve or deny applications with only few restrictions under federal law. Verizon is committed to working in good faith with our local government partners, answering all their questions, addressing any concerns, and complying with all lawful aesthetic or stealthing ordinances that they may adopt. Indeed, federal law requires this, and this bill does not change that. But the bottom line issue here is one of timeliness. We need our partners in local government to make decisions quickly. If the answer is yes, then great. But if the answer is no, we need to know that too in a timely manner so that we can address the issues in a mutually agreeable resolution. Unfortunately, too often our experience has been that our partners in local government fail to give us an answer, either yes or no, within the time periods required by federal law. This is the problem, it is unlawful, and it is what this bill is intended to address. The deemed approved remedy specified in this bill will incentivize local governments to do what they are already supposed to be doing today, approving or denying applications within the lawful time periods. To be clear, however, if a particular application raises an issue that requires more time to address, then localities have the right today, under law, to stop the clock or enter into an extension agreement with the applicant. But they are not allowed to simply ignore the shot clock and fail to make a decision without providing a valid reason. All this bill would do is to specify the remedy when localities violate federal law in this manner. This is a sensible, narrowly tailored bill that will promote compliance with federal law, speed the delivery of mobile broadband, which consumers are demanding in unprecedented numbers, benefit public safety, and grow California and its economy. Verizon respectfully asks for your aye vote.
Good morning, members. My name is Bill Devine, and I represent AT&T. I, too, am here to support AB 57. I think it's been well established that wireless growth is on a trajectory that will require hundreds of millions of dollars of investment over the next 5 or 6 years in infrastructure in California just to keep pace with consumer demand. Yesterday, in a speech from our chairman, he announced that over 50% of our wireless networks are now showing video services. So the demand is soaring, and it's growing exponentially. We are responding to this with investments. And the good news here is that we're here at the table telling you we're prepared and willing to invest. We are investing. We are not seeking a tax break. We are not seeking subsidy to build here. So we think it's a positive story for the California economy, and frankly, it's a positive story for your constituents. We're delivering better, faster services, better, faster broadband, and it's all being driven by your constituents. AB 57 facilitates this investment in infrastructure by just acknowledging the federal shot clock and adding a deemed approved remedy for timely local approval of wireless infrastructure. Let me be clear. 57 does not limit local government authority. It does not affect CEQA, and it does not expand the authority of the wireless carriers. Rather, it establishes a remedy for failure to comply with the shot clock rules, and more importantly, it creates an incentive for both industry and local government to work together going forward to meet the shot clock rules. It is not in our interest to apply for a permit and then end up getting a disapproval from the local government and having to start all over. We are incented to work with them, just as they, under this statute, would be incented to work with us. So AT&T requests an aye vote. Thank you.
Do we have other speakers? Do we have other speakers in support of the bill? You can come forward and
Mr. Chairman, members, Steve Carlson, CTIA, the Wireless Association. My colleagues, I think, covered a lot of issues. I think there are some more numbers which I think would be useful for the committee in its deliberation. Out of 38 million people in California, there are 36.5 million wireless subscribers. 1 in 3 California households is wireless only. 70% of all 911 calls are wireless, the bedrock of our public safety system. We talked about the growth. So we think that this is a modest way to move forward. We hope that it incents a collaborative move forward, which the shot clock rules were supposed to do to begin with, and we respectfully ask your aye vote.
thank you.
Dennis Albiani on behalf of TracFone Wireless, we support.
Christy Weiss on behalf of T-Mobile in support.
Good morning, Brenda Coleman here for Sprint, also in support.
Michael Shaw on behalf of the California Manufacturers and Technology Association in support.
Valerie Nair for the California Chamber of Commerce in support.
Andrea DeVoe on behalf of TechNet in support.
Kelly Hitt on behalf of the Computing Technology Industry Association, formerly Tech America, in support.
And Mike Robeson on behalf of Qualcomm in support.
Chris Rosa on behalf of the Silicon Valley Leadership Group in support.
Okay. Very well. Do we have anybody in opposition who would like to speak on the bill?
Thank you, Chair Lasso.
Omar Masri, respectfully in opposition on behalf of the City of San Francisco. As the city's wireless planner with prior experience in LA and Orange counties, I like to highlight complications of wireless siting, where the FCC stands, and the real-world challenges this bill would create. As planners, our most common challenge with wireless is incomplete or inadequate applications and designs. Now, this doesn't mean that they didn't fill out a checkbox in Form 36 correctly. You see, wireless sites aren't just about antennas. It takes a lot of wires to go wireless. It also takes noise-generating equipment cabinets the size of Viking fridges, buildings the size of shipping containers, diesel generators, new access roads across sensitive habitat, or structural footings for 100-foot towers in unknown soil. This state mandate would create an automatic approval path for all of these land use impacts, no matter the scope, which is exactly why the FCC refused in 2009 and 2014 to create automatic approvals as AB 57 would. Now, these deadlines aren't always a problem, but in reality, we've seen instances where we tell the carrier soon after submittal, move the antennas just a few feet back on a historic building, relocate the large equipment cabinets to avoid displacing a small business tenant on the ground floor, and move that 2-foot wide cable tray running down the side of the building because it's accidentally in front of a neighbor's window. And it's common for us not to see a resubmittal for months as the carrier makes a sincere effort to work through all those issues with their own antenna experts, structural engineers, and property owners. AB 57 would force many city planners to take many projects to hearings with denial recommendations if a project isn't ready in time, because only the commissions have the authority to actually deny an application. And in many cities, if your land use application is denied at a hearing, you have to wait a year to come back. The law also doesn't clarify if complex building code, environmental review, fire safety review, and a public hearing all have to occur within 90 days for a major co-location. Lastly, this law would create circumstances where a timely appeal is filed, but because the carrier or the city missed something, we may end up telling the neighbor, sorry, you have a good case, but it's moot because of the special land use class created by AB 57, and we may see more litigation. Right now in San Francisco, crews are laying miles of fiber optic cable to connect hundreds of small cell antennas on city-owned light poles that we are voluntarily leasing to 2 carriers. And we're working on a pilot for a 3rd carrier. We've approved 35 major sites in the last 2 years in primarily residential neighborhoods and historic districts. On the other hand, we've approved sites at public hearings in 60 days and not seen them built correctly and had to wait a year to get it fixed. To conclude, AB 57 would create more problems than it purports to solve, be it areas of environmental review, due process, or getting to a viable design that we actually want to support. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Good morning again, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Kiana Buss on behalf of the California State Association of Counties. At the start, I want to suggest to you that California's 58 counties fully support greater access to broadband services and improving those services by incentivizing collaborative and cooperative relationships between local governments, our mutual constituents that we serve, and the telecommunications companies for the deployment of new and improved broadband infrastructure. At the heart of this measure is whether existing law strikes the right balance between national and state interests in wireless technology and the legitimate role that counties and cities play in land use decisions to ensure that the health, safety, and welfare of, again, our mutual constituents are taken care of. Wireless facilities, as you have already heard, come in all shapes and sizes, and their impacts depend on the location and the local conditions. We find that the one-size-fits-all approach in AB 57 does not strike that appropriate balance. To be clear, counties and cities are already following the 2009 and 2014 FCC declaratory rulings. To be further clear, those FCC timelines are an interpretation of what is reasonable. The FCC recently found that the deemed approved rule is not an appropriate remedy in all cases of co-locations and new wireless sightings. And in fact, the FCC has continued to assert that applications may take longer than the presumptively reasonable deadlines, and there is an appropriate role for the court to decide in light of specific facts of individual applications. So the question before you today is, does the state of California feel compelled to provide additional remedies to federal law that the FCC refused to do itself. This bill also boils down to the fundamental issue of local control. Should counties and cities be able to work collaboratively with telecommunications companies over wireless facilities to ensure that health, safety, and aesthetic concerns are mitigated? I want to be clear that wireless telecommunications infrastructure, as my colleague from San Francisco said, is still being rapidly built without AB 57. Furthermore, we question the need for such a broad and expansive remedy based on the 10 examples that the telecommunications industry and the author have provided us. By and large, our agencies are processing these applications in a timely and efficient manner. But these examples are self-selected by the industry and are not the result of an independent survey of all 58 counties and 482 cities. In San Francisco alone, there are 500 pending wireless applications for new sites and upgrades. So how many total applications are pending statewide today? How many have been approved? How long did those approvals take? And what percentage of the total applications do these examples constitute in the state? These are questions we are asking ourselves as we consider whether this is an appropriate remedy. Let me wrap up. In summary, deeming these applications approved after a given amount of time could and will allow projects to be built that are not consistent with state and other federal laws, could pose safety or health risks, and result in a loss of community trust. AB 57 would effectively eliminate any incentive telecommunications companies have to negotiate with local governments over the design and placement of wireless facilities, as applicants could run the shot clock out, knowing the remedy is project approval. So for all of these reasons, we respectfully urge your no vote on this measure.
Thank you. Anyone else? You guys could state your name and your position on the bill.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Christy Bauma, representing the California Professional Firefighters. First of all, I apologize to the committee, to the author. We notified them yesterday of our late opposition. Is not traditionally how we operate around this building, but this issue has become quite significant in Los Angeles County. Both my Los Angeles City and Los Angeles County firefighters contacted me late last week on this issue related to the placement of wireless towers on fire stations. So it's a big issue for our organization, but I just want to say in the record, I appreciate your indulgence, Mr. Chair, that we are very sensitive to the fact that there needs to be development of this infrastructure. We are more than willing to engage with the author and his staff about whether this is the right balance between providing that access and making sure government is working efficiently to allow and apply the appropriate level of review, but that they do have time to apply that review to these applications so that they can protect their communities, and as reflections of their communities, firefighters will feel comfortable with the outcome. So at this time, we are concerned about this measure. I apologize for being in between, but after taking a greater look at it, we'll have a formal position probably in the future.
Good morning. Jennifer Whiting on behalf of the League of California Cities, also in opposition.
Good morning. Karen Lang on behalf of the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors for all the reasons stated in opposition. Thank you.
Ed Behrens on behalf of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors in opposition.
Sylvia Solisha on behalf of the cities of Santa Monica and Beverly Hills in opposition.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Paul Gonzalez representing Diamond Bar, Lakewood, Torrance, Roseville, Cerritos, Camarillo, Thousand Oaks, and Rancho Cucamonga, all opposed to the bill.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Lauren De Valencia representing the American Planning Association in opposition.
Mr. Chair, members, Juliana Voris here on behalf of the Urban Counties Caucus in opposition. I'm mostly here on behalf of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors and the San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors in opposition. Thank you.
Good morning, Steve Cruz on behalf of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors in opposition.
Good morning, Kira Ross on behalf of the City of Sacramento, City of Burbank, Glendale, and the Marin County Council of Mayors and Council Members, all in strong opposition. Thank you.
Kirk Blackburn on behalf of the City of La Cañada, Flint Ridge in opposition.
Steve Wallach on behalf of the Ventura County Board of Supervisors in opposition. The Alameda County Board of Supervisors Legislative Committee also has adopted an opposed position.
Thank you. Angela Pontes on behalf of the Association of Environmental Professionals with Concerns.
And Mr. Chairman, members, Paul Smith with the Rural Counties Association, also in opposition.
Very well. Anyone else in the public like to weigh in? Do we have any questions or comments from members? Senator McGuire and then Senator Fuller.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Just a few items, and do appreciate the conversation had with the author and his willingness to have that as well here this morning. So there's a few items specifically in the bill, and I just want to start off on public noticing requirements, because I think that's, I know from individuals within our district that we've heard from. I'll bring up a couple others, and if we can address public noticing requirements within the bill as well.
I'll defer to one of my expert witnesses.
Yeah, Senator McGuire, as we discussed this morning, that is an issue that we have been discussing and plan to. I think we talked with Ms. Batista about this as well. We are working on and we plan to take care of in the next committee. We understand that it's important that local communities have notice if in a deemed approved situation, have adequate notice to be able to deal with that situation beforehand. So we're planning to deal with it.
And I think just diving a little deeper on that is counties, cities have specific requirements based off of time, and if it's a specific project area within a specific direction of where that project area it would be potentially located. Is that your thought in regards to being able to comply of what those local jurisdictions currently have within their planning administrative ordinances?
Well, you know, when an application is made, it's made for a specific site. Yeah. And if we've gotten through the end of the process, and hopefully this doesn't happen very often, that something goes to the end of the process, but then notice would be given to all those who need to get that notice that that site will be approved unless somebody would challenge that. I might also add that in what some of the witnesses had talked about, opposition witnesses, about something, if an application is incomplete, the city has absolutely every right and continues to have absolutely every right to deny. And that doesn't change in any of this. And sometimes it appears to me that somehow got lost in this automatic approval. If these issues that have to be taken care of at the local level are not taken care of, they have absolutely every right to deny it.
So I think my item, and I'll just speak for myself, my own editorial on this one, is that ensuring that what that specific jurisdiction has within their planning administrative ordinance, and I'll just give an example. So for example, when I was on the Board of Supervisors, we have in Sonoma County a very specific range in which neighbors, businesses have to be notified and ability to be able to issue comment. And I think that is where wanting to be able to see is that respecting what those current ordinances have and not simply a one-size-fits-all for all communities. And that's really important for consistency's sake, particularly in the planning and administrative front. And I think having that language would be really important.
Yes. Did you want a response?
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yes, Senator. That is contemplated by the amendment to the notice provision that is coming. Localities have their particular requirements regarding notice, and the amendment, as I understand it, will incorporate that.
Of course, we will incorporate that. Thank you very much for pointing that out, and I'm more than happy to make sure that amendment is taken care of, and I guarantee it.
Yeah, thank you.
But I just want you to bear in mind, I know we could put as much as we want in the bill, but there is a lot of ability within the locals, given their resources, to require an applicant to provide whatever is necessary for them to make a decision on this at the front end. So they have the requirements to say this is what we need. Once the applicant provides those, they deem the application complete. Once they do, that begins the time clock. And that's where the locals have the power to deem the application complete. And that's where the issue of this bill becomes a question of fairness. Once they deem an application complete, and 4 years, 5 years later, they're still having challenges with this, where the project doesn't even come before their local governments for consideration. That's where we start to wonder, you know, whether these projects are being given fair consideration. And that's why we've looked at, in looking at this bill and what it's attempting to do, we looked at that and said, what's a fair process? and we've weighed in, and I know there's still little details to work out to make sure that everybody is given a reasonable ability to weigh in and a reasonable ability to hear all the facts associated with the project. But all the facts associated with the project can be provided during the application process. And of course, you need public input to raise any concerns that were not covered by the application process. That's why we need a reasonable timeline. I think the current proposal is within that. Senator Fuller?
I had a couple other items.
Oh, did you have
as
more?
well.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. No, and I hear that. I think that, and I've had conversations, I think, on the industry side, and what I was sharing with the author this morning is that there are, besides marijuana dispensaries in the district, fewer, more controversial items related to land use than some of these tower sites. And I think everyone wants great coverage, and there are challenges to be able to locate them in some areas without opposition. So I hear that, and what I appreciate is hearing that there needs to be some very specific language of public noticing and respecting those local jurisdictions and their current administrative guidelines that they have in place. I think the other item that I wanted to be able to cover, and that's the issue of CEQA, and we had an opportunity to be able to talk about that this morning a bit, and taking a look, and I know that both the author as well as industry has not had an opportunity to be able to look at the language related to CEQA and the Permit Streamlining Act, and using that language to look at for grounds that a city and or county can be able to utilize, if need be, if there's concerns regarding the environment and environmental impacts. And I know the Assembly member wanted to have make a statement in regards to CEQA in particular.
So right now, as the bill says, when you have, if the local jurisdiction has a reason to ask for CEQA, it can ask for CEQA until that process is done. Until it is done, the shot clock stops. So anytime, if there's any kind of sensitive environmental issue, the person sitting next to me, who in opposition, the member from the witness representing San Francisco, brought up a whole host of things that a city could ask for. You can still ask for those things, and until you get them, as the chair said, until it is deemed complete, the shot clock stops. So in the first 30 days, you can ask for all of this information. You can get a response. Having worked as a city council member, every time I have worked with these agencies, developers, they usually will bend over backwards to make sure that all your questions are answered, that they get something which will go ahead smoothly. The problem then arises when they do everything, when it's deemed approved, and people still take time. And that's what we're concerned about. But everything that a city, a county could ask for today, they can ask for, and that will stop the shot clock.